Just a quick correction. I've been elected for 29 years, lived in the community since 49, started farming in where we live right now in 71, 72 or thereabouts. And focus is going to be from Bruce's global presentation to a pinpoint in Alberta, County Grande Prairie No. 1, the first county formed in the province, and the County Act was written for it. So when Keith first phoned me about the impact of mountain pine beetle at the community level, you look at the community. I mean, I was kind of thinking, oh, it shouldn't be too bad, but it's kind of a problem for 20 minutes or half an hour. So community is big business, various smaller business, mom and pops. You got the individuals carrying lunch buckets, going to work every day, and you got agriculture, of course, the families, and which makes the schools and small communities thrive. So I decided to just do the rural people, or the people that live and go to work every day, and the agriculture community, how they are impacted. Because big business always recovers, smaller business works with big business, and the people that live and go to work every day, whatever impacts them impacts the global community. And in no small way, because whether it's socially, economic, or whatever, there's various directions, various factors, but it changes a community over a period of time. And I think we still haven't come to the realization how much we're going to change because of the mountain pine beetle. It's far-reaching and very, very invasive. So having said that, just a quick overview of the County Grande Prairie, the area I'm talking about. So the county is this green area, and going to the north, you go up all the way north to high level and so forth, south and southeast to Edmonton. So this is basically where we work and play. And just some quick facts. You know, between 600 and 800 meters, and the elevation of the county ranges, and so on and so forth. Our population is about 21,500, and with assessments just over 6 billion, and only 40% is prime farmland, and the rest is marginal and boreal. And you can see here the effects of the mountain pine beetle, and this is an older picture. It says February 17th, but this is actually from about 4 years ago. And when you fly over the area now, that's kind of southwest of Grande Prairie, straight south where we live at Valhalla. And the whole area has turned red, which in turn, you know, changes the whole ecosystem. And there is a relief of the County Grande Prairie. The lighter yellow, of course, being agricultural, and then you got the boreal area up there with smacks of boreal interspersed, where people do their subdivision things. They like to live there. And what happened? First, I'm going to talk about the subdivision impacts. People move from the cities. They have the dream. They got their own acreage, whether it's 1, 2, or 5, or 10 acres. They want to live there, and then they wind up being taxi drivers to school, to functions, everything else. But that's their dream, live in the subdivision. So the pine beetle hit the county in 06, and just want to clarify one, because my second community I'm attacking or presenting on is agricultural. You know, we had some wildlife intrusion before 06. But from 06 on, there was a definite increase as pine started dying off, and you had more and more. I guess you had less fodder for the animals. They didn't know where to go. Less protection, and of course, once trees, they hold in moisture, they hold snow, so you lose some grass cover and so on and so forth. And in the County Grande Prairie, we have lots of urban subdivisions. I don't really exactly know how many, but I'd say of the 21,500, only about maybe a third are agriculture and in the hamlets. Not anymore, anyway, I don't think. And when we first started in 06, I mean, the government went in there and everything, and the county went in there, and we got lobbied by the subdivision people. Oh, my mature windbreaks are dying, so we started a program subsidized by the province to start cleaning out some of these damaged trees. It was a horrendous job. In the end, after 2 years, it was costing $278 per tree to remove a tree. And then you get it on subdivisions, they're all complaining, you left a rut, and you got workers, and the wrong time of year, and they cut the trees up. So that program was aborted. It really was not very successful, but we kept on thinning out the damaged trees in the dunes, which is south of Grande Prairie, and in other boreal areas in the north and the south and the west of the city, and mainly for fire, and because we have this huge wildfire problem now. I mean, it is. I mean, you get a fire in a hot, dry summer, and it's gone. So we've kept on thinning that out, and lumber companies took the trees through pressure from the province and us. So then what happened, like with the subdivision owners, they had a huge uncertainty. Government quit helping them remove their dead trees. They had to do something with them. So, then you have the angst that goes along with it, and uncertainty and everything else. And for the impact, when you look at the impact, what happened, it's especially people are selling, people are buying, people are moving, and so you have a huge value impact. Today, you had a mature real estate salesman always says when they advertise subdivision, mature lot. That's what they always say. So nice trees and everything. Tomorrow, mature was gone because it's all we referenced trees and the beauty and all that was red, dead. So all of a sudden, in the 2-year period, the average value of a subdivision in County Grande Prairie dropped between 15 and 18%. And the only reason we know that because the government now makes us do a live assessment every year on all residential property. And it's come back up again because as people remove their trees and replanted and everything, and people forget about the pine beetle impact, you first of all have this huge scare, and then it kind of funnels, focuses, and you get on to other things. So it took 5 years, but slowly coming back. And then you have the other problem. I've got a subdivision. We all have damaged trees. We live in a subdivision, say, of 50 lots. I do my trees. I clean them out. I replant. Now my neighbor on this side doesn't do anything. So you go from pretty to ugly. So my neighbor and I were pretty good friends. So we were sitting and having a few drinks one night, and you know what happens, eh? You start getting this, because they're decreasing the value in the whole subdivision. So, when you talk about the socio-economic, you got both social and economic impact of the mountain pine beetle. I think a lot of people never ever realized what's going on in the community itself. So if I'm put out, I'm happy about something, and I take my kids to school, the kids carried on to school, it carries on this community, and I work for CNRL or CANF or whatever, and this carries on, and pretty soon you got this going through the community. And I can testify it was there for quite a few years. It's really leveled off and gone down, but it was a real, so you have both social, and that can be a whole array of things, mental and psychology, so on, and your economic. You've got everything involved there. And this slide here, you got 3 or 4 subdivisions in the boreal area, and it was a smoky day, I guess, when they took the picture, but you can kind of see the setting there. You see buildings all over the place inside of a pine and spruce, and most of it it's pine because, as Bruce says, that's what seems to live here and thrives the best. And this carried on until other impacts came to the forefront. Neighbors are talking, and the County of Grande Prairie, of course, we're having public meetings about this and all thing, and all of a sudden people realized my subdivision only has one way in, one way out. Wildfire, how do I get out of this place? So a whole bunch of other planning and time-consuming meetings and everything. Why not? Some more time, some more social impact, some more economic impact. And I guess you can just imagine, where this all goes. And so that's why the County of Grande Prairie did adopted the wildfire mitigation strategy, and we received $1.4 million and some change from the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta to go ahead with it, and our final report is out now. So, you know, when you look at all that from the subdivision areas, people are going to work every day. There's a whole set of influencing factors that could change your whole life, whether you're dealing with your neighbor, whether you're dealing with the bank, whether you're dealing with your employer or the school. So, you know, it's hard to quantify, and I really don't think we're going to quantify it for quite some time, and maybe never. So I'm going to go from what I call the Rurban, the subdivision impacts now, and I hope I made it clear. I mean, it's hard to quantify the money and everything, but to the rural impacts, and that's why I took the two, because I think they are the social fiber of a community, because they live and work there. They vote, they complain. When you're dealing with big companies, they just worry about their taxes and how many more wells they can drill and so forth. When you look at this picture here, all these elk, I should just go back. It's a beautiful picture opportunity for a lot of people. When you look at the agricultural operations in there, it's a huge economic loss. How do you get rid of them? How do I move them? And they're, like say, we had wildlife in our county before, and I think all other areas too. We had wildlife there, but it's grown, I think, by well over tenfold and maybe even more, because the wildlife has now moved in from what used to be a nicely forested area with lots of fodder to open, drier. So they're going to where there's ample food, and let's face it, the agricultural areas, they have lots of sloughs, lots of kind of small bushed areas, so they moved in and we're quite at home. And in our area alone, the conservative estimate of the loss in yearly crop loss, whether it's grain or hay, is $4 million. Last year, the greater South Peace area, I think it was the Agriculture Department, Provincial Department, put a value of $7.1 million on there of crop loss to the farmer. So you can imagine this gets to be pretty intrusive, and budget-wise, maybe you can't make your payments if you can't look after your stuff. You can't insure the stupid stuff. Nobody will insure it because they know the risk is way too high. So when you first of all talk about the grain bags, so farmers are using long, you call them endless bags. They can be 300 feet long, 400 feet long. A 250-foot bag will hold about 20,000 bushels of barley, canola, or so on. And they've gone this way because of cost. You know, it's hard to hire people. Equipment is high priced, so you just decrease your cost of storage. There is just a damaged storage bag, and this is mainly damaged by deer walk on top, and elk walk on top, and ravens. And a typical grain bag holds up to 25,000 bushels of grain, and value of canola lost is excess of $250,000 per bag. And I can personally verify, malt barley is 125,000. A few years ago, both my son and I were gone, and we had a bag full of malt barley. Elk got into it. Inside, when we came back in a week, the bag was all ripped over. The grain was all over the plot and over the place. It had rained, some snowed and melted. The grain was unsaleable. $125,000 gone. You know, so there's an impact to the businesses, to myself, to our son, our families, and the whole community. $125,000 that would have gone to John Deere, the Viterras, Cargills for fertilizer or whatever, you know, or maybe new pickups or another quarter land. That's out of our spending plans now. So it's huge. And then to top it all off, the province is not helping a bit with the wildlife problem. They're actually working, I think, against the community. ESRD, they're busy counting their animals, and it's illegal to shoot them. And I know I brought it up at the floor in the AMD&C, the Association of Municipal Districts and Counties, and the Justice Minister, Dennis Johnson, and the Agriculture Minister. You got one minister is giving you fines. If I shoot an animal and they catch me, they'll fine me, take my pickup, take my gun and everything. And he says, well, you can get a permit. And I said to him, try and get a permit, a landowner's permit, to protect your property and your budget and your family, and so for more social impact. It's almost impossible. Government, they think they can write a check, do a memo, problem solved. Haven't got a clue what's going on with the community. Not a clue. And just to point of illustration, just this past spring, I think it was, I guess we're in spring now, but in February, ESRD decided to go out and count elk up the whole of the glass area. They hired a helicopter, went around and count elk. So they chased all these stupid elk out of the sloughs, out of the trees and everything, and got them into the open fields. Count elk. Now the elk, they're into the green bags. So farmers are busy shooting them. And if you get caught shooting them, you get $5,000, $10,000 fine, go to court, no truck, no gun, you know, and that actually happened. In one of our quarters, they chased out 100 elk. Count them. So I phoned them. Oh no, we're not doing that. So I phoned the helicopter company, ESRD, rented a copter, count animals. You know, this is what's happening in the community. Try to be carefully in time. Just a quick story on that, and I'll be really quick on this story. But there was a farmer who, I mean, ESRD, the animals belong to the government. They control how you hunt them, and they control the migration, not the migration so much as how many animals can grow and live in the area. They're trying to increase in one thing and another. So there was this rancher who had fenced his hay with the really expensive metal panels. So elk get hungry, they jump over them. You can make them 10 feet, they'll still jump over them. And he had 10, 12 elk every day. So he phoned ESRD in Grande Prairie. Oh, they do this, do that. Nobody come out. So, and he finally went and shot him. Phoned the ESRD. Yes, there's 11 dead elk out here. Come and get your stupid animals. You know, they never came out before, but they were out there as fast as they could go from the Grande Prairie office to his farm. Took his pickup, took his gun, give him a citation, a ticket, and so the farmer went to court. And he had everything recorded. He didn't hire a lawyer, and he went to court, explained everything that was going on, and said that ESRD, they didn't come out until we had dead elk. You know, I mean, he went through this whole process. The judge in his ruling really chastised ESRD, and he gave the farmer his truck back, his gun back, and the order was for ESRD to pay all his costs, including the rental of a pickup and time lost and everything. So the judge has more empathy than our government does for the community, you know, because there is the real impact, and like I say, it just carries on and on. And I tried to went through the file on our son too. This is just north of actually just east of our house. And this is a grain bag that's been damaged. You can see all the tracks there from the elk. They just go and feed it Bill. I was trying to get a picture of the bag that was damaged, like the full length was opened up and well, this is still saleable. You can see holes all the way down the line, but there is probably like $10,000 damage, because anything that's spoiled, you gotta leave it. And here's a moose munching in a bale. I just put this picture in. Now, these bales at one point were all wrapped. When the elk got in there, and they get through the plastic and everything, and chewing here and chewing there, and then the water gets in and they're heating. The hay gets wet and it warms up, and they basically start cooking from inside out to turn to ash. Just to the cost of County Grande Prairie and to the government, our average cost was $2,636 per hectare, less the revenue sale of the logs. Like we went in, we're still doing some work, and taking trees out, and it's just for really to stop wildfire. So the county did get some grants from AESRD, and the grants were used to cover such things as the area operation plan development, historical resource value surveys, and so on, and some revegetation stabilizing. But it was really interesting. The province really doesn't want to revegetate it. You know, we wound up buying some trees ourselves. And if you don't revegetate the bigger areas where you take the dead trees out, you got erosion. You know, there's just one thing after another happens. And this is just a slide of our salvaged saw logs of the deck that we had. And it's kind of hard for me to put this together, but I think, you know, the socio and the economic impact in the community that this is having, and is still having, not to the same extent, I think will never properly be documented, because there's so much from everybody that goes to the whole community level, and the deer dealer lives off that, and the churches and the schools and everything, you know, so the total impact is huge, and it doesn't matter whether it's mental or physical or financial. You know, it's a hard one to quantify, and I sure can't do it in half an hour anyway, so I'm just trying to give you an overview. And this is the reality. You know, yeah, this is elk, and this is the reality what's happening today now, and this picture is taken the foothills, it's not right at home, but south of Beaver Lodge, in the fall, there's nothing to see. 140 elk in 1/4 section, 160 acres, going through, looking for, and then in the fall they start wandering because they start rutting and one thing and another, and the females, they bunch up in herds. So 140, you better not have too many bales sitting around that are unprotected. So that's kind of a short overview. I try to keep within the timeline, and I hope I made myself clear enough, because it's a tough subject. I try to zero it down on the people that whatever they do affects the community as a whole. It doesn't matter whether it's big business, small business, schools, or whatever. It's individuals that determine a community.